Let's kick off. I'll do the introduction and we'll take it from there. But to those of you that have just joined us, welcome, and to this webinar, Transforming Your Customer Experience. And it's brought to you by Generation E, NICE, and Microsoft. So we're really thrilled that you could join us today. My name's Michael Petruccelli. I'm the Channel Sales Manager here at NICE CXone. A little bit of a humble brag, CXone, by many accounts, most analysts around the world, is the world's #1 CCaaS, or customer contact center as a service cloud platform in the world. We've got some great guest speakers here today, and I'll introduce them very, very shortly. If you've got some questions, please use the chat window. We'd really appreciate some questions. You're actually in control of the mic as well, as we've discovered. So if you feel brave enough, please ask questions with your voice. We'd love to hear from you. But when one of the presenters is speaking, if you can just keep yourselves on mute, we'd really appreciate that. I hope you've received Eat My Lunch as well, your lunchbox that was delivered to you today. If you have, please enjoy it. If you haven't, it'll turn up very, very shortly. And what we love about Eat My Lunch is that for every lunch that's served today, a child in need also gets a lunch. So we're really thrilled to be supporting Eat My Lunch here today. So what is today about? Today is really about putting the customer experience at the heart of everything that we do and that you do. Now, over the last 2 years, we've really had to modify the way we interact with our colleagues and customers. And in some cases, we've done it remarkably well. And in other cases, we've really, really struggled. A colleague of mine once said that CX excellence is a never-ending race with an ever-changing target. So if you think about that, there's a race, but you actually are not 100% sure when it's going to finish. And I feel like the last 2 years, with the evolution and the new tools that we're really using as consumers and employees, enables us to communicate ways in which we thought we're probably many years down the track. As a consumer, I know that when I communicate with an organisation, be it government or a corporate organisation, I actually want them to communicate with me in where I am, whether it's on a mobile phone, whether it's on the traditional telephone, email, chat. And that's really changing the way businesses and government organisations are talking to their customers. So today is putting those tools to use. And there's no better way to start this conversation than introducing our first speaker. And David Ollison is the Modern Comms Customer Success Manager at Microsoft New Zealand. David understands the dynamic that I've just talked about. And the modern workplace is really now coming to the fore. Most of us are working from home, and most of us are using different tools or different devices to connect to this conversation. So David's going to share Microsoft's vision of the modern workplace and its importance in transforming CX. David.
Thank you very much indeed. So as you heard, my name's David Ollison. I'm a Modern Communications Customer Success Manager at Microsoft New Zealand. My main focus is twofold. I focus on Teams Phone, Teams as a telephony solution, and also Teams Meetings, so meeting room equipment and that kind of solution. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hybrid working as we are hopefully approaching the end of the pandemic and more people are coming back to the office, and also modernized communications. And I think I'd like to start with a brief history of Microsoft Unified Communications here in New Zealand. So New Zealand has actually been quite an early adopting region of Microsoft technology. If we go back as far, almost 15 years, back to 2008, 2010, we had a product called Office Communications Server 2007 R2. I like to think we've gotten a lot better at naming our products than we were back in those days. But certainly we saw some deployments of OCS for instant messaging and presence here in New Zealand. But interestingly enough, a couple of deployments that actually leveraged OCS as a telephony platform as well. Now, I worked for Microsoft in the States for basically for the 2000s, and I left. I was in the team that released Link 2010, and I left there in the very early 2011 and moved to New Zealand. And actually, the first Link voice deployment was in mid 2011. So really, only 6 months after Microsoft made the product generally available, it was already being adopted in New Zealand. The next version of the product was called Skype for Business, and here we saw a tremendous uptake in adoption of Skype for Business as a telephony and collaboration solution. Instant messaging, presence, chat, meetings, and also telephony. And then in 2017, Microsoft released Teams. Now, the initial adoption of Teams was based around the collaboration capability, bringing together team members around shared data, files, group chat, those kinds of capabilities. Less so for the real-time communications like meetings and calling. But then, as we're all aware, from early 2020 till now, there was a mass working from home, remote working as a result of the pandemic, and Teams very rapidly became the hub for teamwork, where all meetings, chat, calls, collaboration, and more were all conducted within Teams. Here in New Zealand, we saw an explosion of use, and Microsoft was working very hard to keep the feature updates coming to support the remote working scenario. But as we're hopefully approaching the end of the pandemic and more people are returning to work, we've had to shift our focus more to supporting the hybrid working scenario rather than just the purely online scenario. Now, here's the paradox with hybrid working. About 73% of people want the flexible remote working options that have been put in place during the pandemic. They want them to stay post-pandemic. And equally, about the same number of people want more in-person work or collaboration post-pandemic, hence the paradox. We want both of these things to be supported by the tools. So this requires a new operating model that brings together people, places, where they're working from, and processes all together in one tool set. And that tool set, from our perspective, is Microsoft Teams, where we can do meetings, chat, call, collaborate, and automate. So if we look at each of these in turn, first of all, people. Last year, Microsoft released its customer experience, its employee experience platform called Viva. Viva has 4 main pillars: connections, which is basically the next generation of the corporate intranet. Easily available directly within Teams. Insights, where individuals and their team leaders and their managers can have insights into the ways that people are working, what hours they're keeping, whether they're approaching burnout in any kind of a way. Learning is where we bring together all learning sources, not just Microsoft LinkedIn Learning and the like, but other sources too, all into a single unified learning portal within Teams again. And then topics is a way of surfacing terms and topics within the business to the users automatically. Now, places, I'm just going to play a little video here. Places means that it doesn't matter where you're attending from the meeting, you're going to have a tier 1 first-class experience. We want to cater for the hybrid working environment, so both the person that's working from home, as this person is, all the way through into the people, their colleagues that are on the same meeting, but actually attending it from within a meeting room. And this is actually a Microsoft Teams room system that they're using for this. And then shortly, as we approach this next segment, we'll be able to see how we also incorporate Microsoft Whiteboard to be able to collaborate effectively. So here's a whiteboard on a Surface Hub in the room, but there's also the same whiteboard on the laptop back at home. So this is bringing everybody together into a co-collaboration environment. Now, in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip the remainder of this video. Now, processes. This is where we bring Microsoft's Power Platform, which combines the Power Apps You can create custom applications that act upon things. You've got Power Virtual Agents, which is a way of building chatbots for self-service scenarios. We've got Power BI, which is a way of analyzing the data within your business, and then Power Automate to automate routine processes and make things more efficient. And again, all of this is run from the context of Microsoft Teams. So that's the hybrid working vision from Microsoft. We also mentioned that we have modernized our communications capability, and that's vital as well if we're going to support hybrid fully. We need to be able to support remote employees needing to communicate from anywhere and on any device. We need to support evolving calling scenarios. And also all of this needs to be at a cost-effective price point, but also easy to manage as a cloud-delivered service. So Teams Phone integrates all of your calling, not just your internal calling, but also your external calling now as well. It meets business needs for modern calling features, such as transcription, for example. It optimizes IT resources. Everything about Teams, including Teams Phone, is managed through the Teams Admin Center. And it provides users with flexible, budget-conscious devices. Now, this slide here is really just to highlight the fact that right now, Teams Phone is a proper superset of the phone capability that was available with Skype for Business. In other words, it does much more than Skype for Business did, and it is completely enterprise ready to replace the legacy telephony solution within the business. It features like call recording, where all the recordings are stored in the Azure cloud, transcriptions, live captioning, a lot of different features with Teams Phone. So how does all of that fit with customer care solutions, such as the one that you're about to hear more about today? How do third-party customer care solutions fit in with this framework? Well, the answer is they fit in very well indeed. So a cloud-delivered customer care solution can leverage Teams as the hub for teamwork. Agents can seamlessly leverage the benefits of both customer care solution and Teams without switching context. Microsoft has provided APIs that allow the vendors with the capability to embed advanced capabilities such as call recording and analytics into their own solutions. And finally, certified solutions include those built on top of Teams, where Teams is actually the one answering the telephone call, as well as those that are built standalone, but integrate with Teams. And NICE CXone is an example of that latter solution. So NICE CXone is a fully Microsoft accredited cloud-delivered contact center that integrates with Teams. Now, these solutions are typically deployed and configured by a qualified partner. And in this case, today's presentation also includes Generation E, who are a Microsoft Gold certified partner, focusing on delivering Microsoft modern work solutions to customers in Australia and New Zealand. So that's the vision from me, and I'd now like to hand over to Anthony Brown from NICE.
Before you do that, and thank you, David, we really appreciate that, and it's interesting to see, you know, some of the features that in Teams that you might. I've been a Teams user for many years, but there are some more features that we don't know. But one thing that we're experiencing, certainly over the last 18 months in particular, is this notion of where do you draw the line between a casual call center or contact center and the formal contact center, and I think we've seen that escalate in our recent deals that we've done, and Teams has actually become really important in organizations who are moving off potentially their on-prem PBX and looking to move to the cloud, and being more confident that they can do that now with Teams and CXone working hand in hand, if you like. So this back office and front office concept seems to be blurring a little bit, and I think it's because of the types of tools that you've described and the types of tools that Anthony Brown will describe very, very shortly. But if there's any questions of David, please put them in the chat window. We'll address them as we progress. But thank you for that, David. Really appreciate your time today and your support. But now it's time to introduce my colleague, Anthony Brown, who's the Director of Solutions Consulting here at NICE. Anthony's been around in this space for a little bit of time, maybe not as long as me, but you know, just by judging our hair colour. But what I do know, Anthony's been with us for what, 3 months or so, and maybe I might be overstating that, but what I do know is extremely passionate about helping organisations in their digital transformation journey. And Anthony will talk about digital and CXone and this new dynamic that we're all experiencing in our day-to-day communications with each other and with organisations. So with that, I'll hand over to Anthony Brown. Anthony.
Thanks very much, Mike, and thank you, David, also for sharing your insights from the Microsoft perspective. Great to be with you this afternoon. So I'll get straight into it in the interest of time. So it's been very apparent, and David touched on this during his conversation, as a number of things we'll talk about obviously will. You know, we've been living in such an accelerated pace of change for a number of years, not just in the last 2 years, but clearly the last 2 years has had a somewhat dramatic effect on the way in which we consume and adopt and expect service to be delivered to us. And this is going to continue. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what it's going to look like over the coming years, especially with things like video in the contact center, which is always been, from a vendor perspective, it's been on every RFP for maybe the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years perhaps. But given we've all done an extraordinary amount of video over the last 2 years, I think our acceptance as individuals of, you know, dogs and people walking around the background of video, or, you know, a little bit of choppy noise because we're running over the internet, is has become quite different. We're sort of used to it. It's become normalized almost. So I think we'll see a lot of continued change in the way in which we interact with organizations. But clearly customer expectations have changed, and they will continue to do so. And most of this is geared around some of our needs events. And when we have a needs event, be it looking to purchase, to resolve an issue, to schedule an appointment, do research, check on order status, provide service, we fully expect that range of needs to be addressed by the organizations with which we are interacting with. But not only that, and Michael touched on this in his introduction as well, that this meet me on my preferred channel of choice. Now, we've gone from call centers to multi-channel contact centers to omni-channel contact centers and continued on that journey. But there's always been this sort of underlying tone that it's the Gen Ys that don't want to call, they want to use the web, they want to use the app. It's actually not true. And it was one thing the last 2 years has taught us is, funnily enough, we actually seem to quite like talking to people, to other people, and even to devices as well, as we've seen that change in voice. But the fundamental point is that you cannot say, right, Gen Y don't want to call, they want to use the app, the web, messaging, whatever it may be. It's all based on context. Where am I? What am I doing? And this is the device I'm choosing. This is the channel I'm choosing. And we expect the service that we receive on that channel, on that device, to be the same as we do everywhere else. We don't want to be in this situation where I have to learn which is the best channel to interact with an organization, or indeed to have a completely different experience on, you know, web chat versus a voice call. We want the same kind of service, the same kind of expectations on those. If I'm in the car, I'm not going to be using using web chat or an app to communicate with an organization. I'm going to call. And when I do connect via those different channels, I expect the self-service I receive, if I receive self-service, to be intelligent. And by that, what I don't want to have inflicted upon me is, let's call it, rather than intelligent self-service, it's called dumb self-service, which is often implemented to deflect a caller or an interaction from speaking to an agent, you know, trying to keep me away from your most expensive resources. I'm expecting intelligent self-service that can quickly and easily help me find the things that I'm looking for and my needs. That's a funny ringtone. Can we get that line muted if possible, please?
There's the dramatic music I was talking about at the start.
Not Dallas, I'm showing my age. Paul or Ron, perhaps you can mute that line if possible for us. Anyway, interesting expectations. When I've received my intelligent self-service and I want to be able to move effortlessly between those channels. So if I'm having a web chat with a self-service interaction, I need to be able to move seamlessly, perhaps to a callback scenario or to an agent. That agent needs to have the full context of what happens. I need to be able to move seamlessly to the next best channel of choice as I go through that journey. And in the same way as David referred to this paradox of I want remote working, but I want to be with people and collaborate and communicate. As individuals, we want to be treated as a unique individual is known and understood, but I also want to be left alone. I don't want Big Brother. We have this paradox of the everything customer that has these massive demands that you should know who I am, you should know why I'm calling, you should know what I'm doing, but you shouldn't know too much. And there's a real fine balancing line that we have to deal with there. So we have these sort of personalized customer experience, and sometimes I look at that in the framework of context. And when we talk about context, I'm often looking at things like, you know, an awful lot about your customers, your callers, the people that are interacting with your organizations. What could you know? What are the things you could know about the caller or the person that's interacting via the web chat, via messaging, whatever it may be? What should you know? And then if you should know it, know it. You know, if I'm inside of a mobile app and I'm trying to self-serve with inside that application, I run into trouble, I escalate to an agent assistance channel. The agent should know that's what I was doing. They should know if I've authenticated, and that's a 20-year-old use case. There are so many things that we should know. And so when you look at context, understanding who is this person and what is their value to us, what should you know? If you should know it, know it. It reminds me of a colleague of mine in the US. He talked about a situation where I think he'd banked with Bank of America for 20 years or something, and every time he put his ATM card in the machine, it says, please press 1 for Spanish or 2 for English. And he said, in 20 years, I have never pressed 1 for Spanish. Do they know that? Yeah, probably. It's buried in some database somewhere in the back end, but they should know it and stop asking. You know, understand who your customers, treat them with a personalized experience. If you should know it, know it. Now, in the same way as we've seen this huge migration and move to the cloud over the last couple of years, particularly in our region, the early days of cloud adoption, or what I refer to as first generation customer experience, a lot of the time that was an on-premise technology lifted and shifted into somebody else's data center where it was managed, but that gave you the same limited digital choices and incomplete customer experiences. No seamless flow between the channels and what I would call disconnected customer experiences, because you've got, okay, well, we've got a web chat over here, we've got email here, we've got voice here and messaging here and social media there. None of those systems were connected. Every single one of those channels was treated as a silo within an organization, and it was a different customer experience, different knowledge, different people, different level of service that was achieved in every single one of those channels. And this sort of created a lowest common denominator of functionality, and this customer trying to understand what is the best way to interact with this organization. And you get, it's almost this vanilla and generic experience, and that's not cool. That's not what we like. But the real barrier to change was not really the intent. It was the foundation on which these contact centers were built. And interestingly, a Harvard Business Review study was conducted last year. And one of the things that we found interesting in the results in that survey was that when a customer has a needs event, only 19%, so 1 in 5 thereabouts, started out with the intent of connecting to the contact center through an IVR, through a bot, through an FAQ page, whatever it may be, and reached an agent for resolution. And that's conservative. Only 1 in 5 of your customers are you seeing as part of your customer experience platform. The remaining 81% all started with a digital entry point. So they were going to Google, they were going to the app, going to the website, maybe responding to a proactive interaction. Now, the challenge there is, how do you get, when they go to the search engine and they initiate a search to find what they're looking for, how do you get your content to be the one that is top of mind, not a third-party forum somewhere or somebody else's experience from that might not be correct. And it reminds me sometimes of being a GP. I think if I was a GP, they must hate I was searching on the internet and I think I've got this. They become pre-diagnosed, and then the doctor has to walk them back and actually do a professional diagnosis of the case. Now, in many cases in contact centers, somebody's done some research earlier on, they've not been able to find what they wanted, then they've had to switch channels and go to an agent, and you've got to walk them back again from that situation. So from these digital entry points, some of those will go on to have intelligent self-service options, knowledge and proactive management. Some will still get to an agent. A lot of the case, companies don't have a holistic strategy to manage these entry points for these digital first interactions. And that's when NICE CXone really helps break this, what we would refer to as a digital divide that's occurring between consumers and organizations. And NICE, through our CXone platform, can manage all of these different channels and different processes in the cloud and allow us to service these customers most effectively. But so far, we've been talking exclusively about the customers. And when you think about customer journeys, invariably what you find is that most organizations, there's something missing from a customer journey, and it's actually the agent experience. Agent is such a critical element of a customer journey. It's unbelievable that it gets so forgotten in many cases. So when we look at agent experience, there are 5 what I would call CX superhero powers that agents are expected to have in order to deliver exceptional customer experience. Now, we don't have time today to go through all 5 of these. Perhaps we'll set this up for a future session with our colleagues. But when you look at probably the first superpower, the insightful component, so super insightful, the context that we were referring to a moment ago, what should I know about a customer? There's a critical element to be able to deliver to an agent. At the moment of truth, when you connect your customer to one of your agents, you're fulfilling or trying to fulfill 2 promises, not 1, 2. Firstly, you're telling the customer, I will connect you with somebody that can help. And you're telling your agent, you're promising your agent, I will connect you to someone that you can help. Agents love to help. That's what their job is. Solve problems, make these issues go away. Making them insightful is a key component with that, as is, and I'm going to skip over these for today, but as is knowledgeable, as is intuition around real-time sentiment analysis and analytics. But what we want to get to today, particularly with our relationship with Microsoft, is the super connected component of a agent superpower. And by this, what we're referring to is, okay, so if we've got insightful, knowledgeable, intuitive agents, if they still need additional help, they need to be able to seamlessly reach out to other people in the enterprise to be able to help this customer to be able to fulfill this promise. This might be through messaging in Teams, it may be through all sorts of different communications channels, but they need a platform which allows them to be connected to the organization such that they don't have to hang up on the customer or put them on hold constantly and then try and find this information somewhere inside the depths of the organization. A connected agent experience helps deliver on your customer experience promise, as does a productive agent workspace. So having all of their tools at their fingertips, and I've been with organizations and some of the large banks here in Australia, as an example, where when you look at the number of applications they have on their desktop, it's simply astonishing. There's the obligatory spreadsheets all over the place. There's goodness knows how many browser tabs open. Huge amounts of information that agents are expected to switch between constantly. And with tools like Teams, and CXone, where we can bring all of this into a single workspace, we can help our agents be productive, again, to help fulfill our promise of meeting our customer experience needs. And with that in mind, what I wanted to show you, this is, we've had integrations with Microsoft and Teams for quite some time, but this year it's actually getting a rewrite and a bit of a refresh. So this will be out later this year. So I want to show you a couple of screenshots of the NICE CXone CCaaS contact center embedded inside of Teams. Now this is what's coming, so no screenshotting, please. It's coming this year. And what you see here is the Teams interface with the present synchronization, but you see all of the contact center capability, customer contact cards, the digital channels, call controls, email controls, chat controls, messaging controls, all embedded in that productive connected workspace that Teams provides for us. And likewise, when we look at the various different chat transcripts in here, and the nice thing about the the NICE CXone interface and the breadth of the portfolio that we have is we have not just the omni-channel, cloud contact center routing platform. We have the full breadth of workforce engagement, so workforce management within scheduling and adherence, shift bidding, and so on. Now that is all embedded in Teams also, so an agent can quickly see what shifts do I have this week, what is my time off this week, what am I scheduled to be doing, and when. All of this embedded inside of the Microsoft Teams environment. And there's just another example here with the calendaring and a day planner of what they're doing, when, how long, what's going on in the queues, etc. So it just gives you a little bit of insights as to some of the challenges we're seeing from a contact center perspective, a digital transformation and customer experience perspective, and the fantastic work we're doing with Microsoft and with our partners Generation E to fulfill these customer experience promises. And with that, I'm going to conclude my component for the day and hand back to Michael, if I may.
You may. Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions of Anthony? I'm happy to throw it open. If you can open your mic and ask any questions, please do so. I think you saw. It's nice to see some of those screenshots. I did take a screen grab, I must admit, just then. Anthony.
I didn't show you those, Michael. I'll send them to you afterwards.
No, but thank you. I think one of the things that that we all found interesting when we discovered it, throughout our internal training was that 19% stat that you raised, that only 19% of all interactions ends up in the contact center, and I think when we talk about what happens to the other 81%, can you give maybe just a bit of insight into what we're looking to do to address the 81% in just very quick?
Sure, absolutely. And I think one of those things, I touched on it briefly around the opportunity to provide knowledge. People are going to a web search engine as a first instance, and how do we find that knowledge? So aside from the super knowledgeable agent superpower, the ability to curate and project that knowledge into the internet such that when they search for whatever it is they're searching for related to your organization, they find your content first. And when they find that content, be able to proactively engage with them if that's not sufficient, to be able to guide them through the web page and offer them that seamless escalation with knowledge and context of the customer's journey prior to that instance. So yeah, that knowledge projection is one of those. But when we talk about additional channels as well, I think we support something like about 32 different digital channels ingressing into our platforms, including the various different asynchronous messaging channels like Apple Business Chat and Google Chat, various things, WhatsApp and so on. There are so many different connections in, and tomorrow there's probably another one, and next week there's going to be another one. So you're going to need a platform that can consume those digital channels in whatever form they may be. It's one of the beauties of the cloud as well, Michael, in that historically, if you wanted to deliver on that capability, you'd then have to install some more software, install some new servers, get some more data space. But with the cloud technology, you can turn that on, as you've seen with Teams, as you've seen with other cloud environments. When that functionality becomes available, you no longer need to be the large BNZs or Westpacs or Spark organizations of the world to be able to consume this. We have contact centers that are as small as 3 agents, which is quite astonishing. We have 3 in Australia, we have a couple at 3, and we have some at 4,000 or 5,000 agents, just to give you some idea of the scale. But they all have access to that capability. So you don't have to be big to be able to consume this, which is perfect for our region. Right? We have very mature requirements in Australia and New Zealand, but we don't have the scale that you might get elsewhere in the globe. And it's another one of the really strong benefits of cloud.
How about it would be really interesting to hear your thoughts on AI and chatbots and using and how we can integrate, effective self-service and the benefits of those, and the benefits of, a self-service interaction versus an agent interaction is obviously cost reduction. In the past, we're always worried about customer experience around, conversational AI and chatbots, but but the technology has come so far. Maybe if you just give us some of your thoughts on that aspect.
Sure. So I need to be conscious of time because that's a whole topic in its own right. But one of the challenges we have with conversational AI is that, for so many years we have been conditioned to triage your interactions like you would an IVR through a tree structure and those kind of things. And with conversational AI, it allows us to do something very different and really actually reimagine the customer experience and what they're trying to achieve. So I would caution you to think very carefully about how those are done, but it is about delivering that intelligent self-service, not the in a few short words, please tell us why you're calling kind of thing that has driven us all crazy for the last 10 years or so. It's just really a very poor experience. It's not how the next generation are talking. We talked about, there are actually some stats from the search engine providers around how search has changed. It used to be you might search for bank account or something of that nature, but now people might search for what is the best bank account in Melbourne. So they're much more descriptive. We don't use a few short words anymore. We use sentences. We can speak in full sentences. Now our platform has the ability to integrate to all of the leading AI providers. We have our own AI also, but includes Microsoft Lewis platform, the Amazon Lex and Polly, Google CCAI. We can integrate with those in all sorts of different ways to enable much better and more intelligent self-service and customer experience options.
Awesome. We always thought that was the domain of the larger contact center, but we are seeing, contact centers of all sizes really looking at ways to improve the customer experience. And part of that is ensuring that if they choose to go down a self-service channel, that it's as good as speaking to a live person. So
nothing wrong with self-service as long as it's used for good, not evil, Michael.
That's true. That's true. I really want to ask you about analytics, and I know, because I know that's a whole other topic, but if you don't mind, just touch on the importance of context, and because you talked about before, understanding why customers are calling you, and in the past in contact centers we've always, average handle time, average speed of answer, abandonment rate, we all had those key performance indicators, or those stats. But the ability now with our cloud platform in particular, is that we can actually delve a lot deeper into why customers are calling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the advantage of having the breadth of portfolio that we have. We have the entire end-to-end call recording of what happened in the IVR components, in the all the way through the agent or into the feedback management components as well. That's for instance, we can apply artificial intelligence across that, and we have the largest labeled data set in the world underpinning our customer experience AI engine called Enlighten, that to really help us drive much better customer experiences, understand why people are calling, but also understand what the self-service opportunities are. As an example, you could have had a situation where if you're going to automate, if you're going to engage one of those conversational AI engines and say, okay, what should we do first? What should we do self-service? And you probably sat around in a room, and the room would probably have lots of coloured post-it notes stuck on the wall, and you'd largely be guessing around what are we going to automate first? What's the lowest hanging fruit? And how much is that going to save us? What's the business case for doing that? And the advantage of having that end-to-end solution with NICE CXone is that our AI engine can understand what all of these different calls and interactions are about, and then suggest opportunities for self-service, which include things like, if you automate this process that your agents are doing, then you can provide X% savings in your self-service calls, and then of course free your agents up for the much more complex tasks, so it can identify those self-service opportunities and help you build a tangible business case for that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate that. And I think AI, conversational AI chatbots, and analytics, speech analytics in particular, are a whole other topics, and we'd love to, if you're interested in any of those aspects, please let Generation E know. And on that note, it's my great pleasure to introduce the country manager for New Zealand at Generation E, Paul Dolly. Now, Paul is last but not least in this conversation. By no means least, because Generation E brings this all together for you, you know, from the Microsoft stack to the CXone stack. And so Paul's going to give you an overview on how Generation E can bring this all together for you. Paul.
Awesome, thanks, Michael. Yeah, and I literally, you know, I'm on the tail end of this, so I just wanted to sort of, you know, wrap up with a sort of 5 minutes or so, just to give you that sort of, how do you bring this to life? You know, we've heard from David, we heard from the team at NICE, you know, about some of the capability. And I think, as we said, we've only just scratched the surface when you think, you know, omni-channel contact center, self-service, AI, and, you know, the depth. I think you can sort of get a feel for just, you know, how capable, you know, the solution is. And really, I think what's important to understand is when you think about these solutions is, you know, we all recognize times are changing, right? Faster than ever, and, you know, with outside influences, with COVID, has really accelerated some of that change and how organizations really have to transform. You know, there's always been a desire to transform, and I think we've seen over this last couple of years, you know, the intent and the need to actually do something and do something quickly and effectively, you know, has really come to the fore. Now, just to give a bit of background, you know, around Generation E, you know, this is our bread and butter. This is what we do, and this is what we do really, really well. Right? We are there really to help organizations get through this transformation, really help you navigate it, and define things as simply as possible for the end user and your customers, your internal customers, by taking care of all of the complexities of the solution integration, and all of the things that, you know, make up and bring this to life. So, you know, we use the tagline that, you know, we make modern work possible. You know, we really believe that we are, you know, the go-to experts around anything around Microsoft and modern work solutions. You know, we pride ourselves as an organization, as Generation E, in having really, really deep technical, credible people with it right across our organization, from the top, you know, all the way down. You know, anybody can hold a conversation around our solution stack and have a real deep and meaningful conversation. So, you know, as an example, we have Microsoft certified masters, we have Microsoft MVPs, you know, so, you know, we know this stuff and we know it really well. And one of the reasons we do that is because we are purely focused on delivering Microsoft-centric solutions. So Microsoft 365 really underpins everything that we do as an organization. And, you know, whether you're thinking digital collaboration, unified comms, voice, contact center, meeting room technology, and AV, you know, those are the areas which we span out and build upon Microsoft Teams as that core platform, you know, and some of the newer underpinning technologies such as Viva, as David touched on earlier, to really, you know, enable this. And we only work and choose and select the best possible complementary solutions that go hand in hand with Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams. Hence, you know, we partnered with NICE and the CXone solution, which we built a huge successful practice around deploying this for our customers right across Australia and New Zealand, you know, to really enable what is the future, you know, as you see, as unified communications as it moves forward. The bit of pedigree, you know, about Generation E, we were born out of Australia as an organization, but had many, many customers existing in New Zealand. And then started up here, you know, with a local presence in New Zealand just over a year ago, about 15 months ago. We have a number of people on the ground here now, including an MVP, including dedicated technical experts, support engineers. You know, we can go from soup to nuts around anything Microsoft, you know, add on modern work as our solution set. You know, we have over 2.6 million Office 365 seats under our belt already. And, you know, and in management, and over 300,000 enterprise voice seats, right? So it gives you some sort of idea of our depth of capability, you know, to have those numbers, you know, under operational install and management across there. We have over 10 Microsoft Gold certifications, covering everything from unified comms, from Teams, from meeting rooms. You know, in the meeting room space, we are only one of 2 partners in New Zealand who were invited by Microsoft to become part, you know, of their enhanced meeting room partner program. So I think really what I'm trying to get across here is we understand this stuff deeply, right? We can help you make the right decisions and help you with your technical roadmap, you know, through consultancy to really help you get and step and evolve along this journey with you. We do not sell and recommend solutions that are not the right fit for a customer. We would walk away first. And that is our ethos in everything we do around customer first. Right? What we want to do and how we want to work and partner with you is to really bring these best-in-breed solutions, such as CXone, help bring them to life inside your organization, but deliver that in a way, in a project sense, which is absolutely seamless to you and as easy as possible. We want to be super easy to work and do business with. Hence, we lead from the technical front first. We just say sales is secondary around there, but we think you understand our value through our technical expertise, and we prove ourselves with the work we deliver and through our references of our existing customers. So I don't want it to be a sort of a drum beating exercise around Generation E, but just really to help you really understand we're here, we're ready, we have capability, we have great solutions, and with NICE and the CXone platform on top of Microsoft Teams, we can really bring this to life across your organization very, very quickly. Whether you have a need to enable enterprise voice, whether you have a need for the hybrid contact center, where location and geography just disappears under this type of solution. It is largely irrelevant in terms of where people are, what devices people are using. Even that's not just thinking from the customer side coming into the contact center, but your contact center workers and agents and how they operate within your organization as well. So we have secure solutions that work around that entire stack to really enable and bring that to life. Now, I said that would only be 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. I would make one call out, from today that, if you want to hear more around this stuff, reach out. We're here, we're available, we're ready to talk to you around some of that capability. And oops, hold on a second, my slide just moved on itself. Let me get over there.
Just while you're doing that,
I lost my slide stack on that, but we'll leave it on there. But yeah, feel free to reach out. Michael's details, Anthony's details, myself, and the broader New Zealand and broader Generation E team. We're here, we're ready. So please reach out, and we'd love to talk to you and help you, even if it's with a demonstration or a proof of concept within your organization, and help you along this journey. Michael, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I was just about to say thank you for that. I'll just beat the drum very quickly, if I may. Generation E is our fastest growing partner in Australia and New Zealand. So they've just done extraordinarily well. So yeah, with all their Microsoft certifications, they're certainly one of our shining stars. So thanks very much, Paul. Really appreciate your time. Anthony, thank you as well. Really insightful presentation. And our special guest today, David Ollison, thank you for yours. And James Harwood, really thank you for that note. Some great insights here. Thank you. That's what today was all about, giving you some insights into the modern workplace and how its impact on transforming your customer experience. So on that note, please feel free to contact Generation E, NICE, or Microsoft. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for your time. We hope you've enjoyed your lunch and learned at the same time. Until next time, we'll bid you a fond adieu. Thank you.
Thank you.